Everyone. Welcome. My name is Dr. Samuel Feinser, and today I have the honor of introducing you to two amazing groups of student researchers, activists, scholars. They have served as scholars and researchers and interviewers and interviewees, documenting struggles encountered by their respective communities and uplifting voices from their generations. They're working on a study funded by the ACLS Mellon Community College Fellowship. Tegida Fadiga, Luz Hidalgo, Sadaf Majid, Elsie Rosario, and Viserys Saidmian have curated testimonies collected by and of themselves and their classmates. Not only have they begun to organize and analyze the hundreds of testimonies for an archive titled Voices from the Heart of Gotham to be housed at Guttman Community College, but they are also serving as co-authors and editors on an edited volume of this collection. Today, they will focus on oral histories gathered by Guttman Community College undergrads on immigration and migration to New York City. Take it away.
All right, okay, as producers of knowledge with a particular focus on social injustice, racial, gender, and transnational journey, Guttman Community College scholar activists have constructed a new digital canon that offers New Yorkers the opportunity to contribute testimony of tumultuous time. Created by the intergenerational collaboration between student, faculty, and staff, this work seeks to democratize the production of knowledge by empowering community college students, largely deriving from immigrants' households, to shape the narrative told about their community and their generation. So today, we explore a small part of this project by detailing undergraduate interview of elders, often within their own families, which have excavated testimony that humanize stories of migration and immigration to New York City. Um, the CUNY Center for Urban Food Policy released a report in 2018 that detailed immigrant impact on the city. With more than 3 million immigrants to New York City, people born in other countries represent 37% of the city population and 43% of this workshop. They are deeply woven into the financial health of the city, contributing 257 billion to New York City economy, nearly a third of the entire GDP. So immigrant households have had a strategic imprint on the city demographic, as approximately 60% of New Yorkers are either immigrants or the children of immigrants.
Voices from the Heart of Gotham has uncovered the immigrant experience through the eyes of immigrants themselves. Narratives are collected by trusted loved ones, which provoke stories and memories that could only be evoked due to the intimacy between interviewers and interviewees. Hearing about the experiences and struggles of immigrants opened my eyes to see that the importance of unity within and between communities is needed now more than ever. With Voices from the Heart of Gotham, I can use my role as an immigrant and student to help create a space designed to give immigrants a platform to share their stories. Being able to share immigrants' perspectives on how people in society view people who are immigrants made me feel empowered because for so long I felt alienated as an immigrant, silenced by mainstream society. This project works to amplify immigrants' voices in a way that is authentic, exposing how biases against them have silenced them in the past. As a majority immigrant team ourselves, our projects ask those people that are so influential to character of the city are. Where do they come from and why do they choose New York City? What does the city mean to them and what have they meant to the city? What obstacles have they faced, sacrifices have they made, and dreams have they pursued? This work seeks to complicate immigrant narratives, which too often use numbers and anecdotes to cultivate nativist fear in ways that divide people by class, gender, religion, ethnicity, and place of origin.
Why people leave their home country. So when speaking like to elders and peers, who arrive in New York City from elsewhere, government students help them produce testimonies of the challenging condition and economic opportunity at home that made relocating seem like the only option for a fulfilling future. So Carmen Graves at the time of the interview, an 80 years old immigrant from Puerto Rico, recalls the poverty that surrounded her on the island. She said, I remember walking to school every day from the country to the town and walking with no shoe, no clothes, only little clothes and eating if I could find something to eat. On the island of the West, Starling Pimentel remember the house where I used to live in the Dominican Republic was kind of broken down. This experience mirrored the reality for Dolores Rodriguez, who recalls, I grew up on a farm in the Dominican Republic with no electricity, no water. I go further explaining that beyond a difficult financial situation in my native country, Benin, my future prospects were limited. I was like, this is not a good life for me. So I left. Other people left because they fear for their own safety. When I was living there, it was very dangerous to be outside, and I decided to move to the United States. After a couple of family members told me that the United States was going to be a better place to live.
Saying goodbye. Immigrants often think that everything will be perfect since you will settle in a country where there are many opportunities that are scarce in your lands. On the contrary, when you analyze and recognize that you are far from the place and the people who saw you grow up, it makes you feel nostalgic. Angela Peña, an immigrant from the Dominican Republic, says, I was a little lonely in the beginning because I didn't think I would miss my country as much as I did. So I was feeling a little homesick for a while. All of these sad feelings and devastating emotions have deterred many immigrants from wanting to persist. However, the hope of improving all aspects of life is really what inspires the immigrants that make it to never give up. Diego Chavez from Colombia explains, the hardest thing is leaving everything behind, everything you have ever known. You are leaving it and starting something new. Immigrants like Diego are leaving the people, and the community they grew up in for a country where they will have to reinvent themselves. In many ways, it's like being reborn. Nicolas Martinez, an immigrant from an immigrant interview from the DR, concurs with this sentiment. La parte más difícil creo que haber dejado mi casa allá, mi casa de toda la vida, mis amigos, mi trabajo y todo, todo lo que era una vida. Through this work, we have learned immigrants have to remake or reestablish a new way of living, starting from scratch. Bernice Hewitt from Trinidad and Tobago explains, no matter what level of lifestyle you have when you come to America, you start from scratch, believe me. It was really hard to come to a country like American. You have to start from scratch, believe me. Um, when a person decides to come to a new country in search of rare opportunities they were not offered to them in their home country, it is literally like having a whole new life and being a new person. The most difficult thing for an immigrant is saying goodbye and coming to a country that is totally different from theirs. In many cases, where they do not have relatives to support them or to help them persist. Therefore, it is very difficult for them to progress or to be able to achieve stability to survive such a new change. Leaving behind your roots, customs, and most importantly, your relatives, who are the people who will try to assist you above all else, is a very difficult and painful decision that will mark you for the rest of your life. However, this work we learn with this work, we learn the need to improve your life condition and that your loved ones is your greatest motive or inspiration to move forward with touchy decisions that breaks the soul into 1,000 pieces.
The journey to New York City. The decision of migrating to New York City is not always easy, and the journey that awaits immigrants and migrants can be intimidating. The way that some immigrants come to this country with everything there is to go through is enough for them to think, I am not doing this, this is crazy. But the necessity is what gives courage to those who decide to take on the journey. It is a decision that is going to completely change their lives. And so we have found many immigrants take great risks and go through much trouble to make it to the United States. Maria Blanca's journey was not an easy one. She narrates how risky and extended her journey was to get here. Cruzar otra vez, me volví a arriesgar y tuve un poco de miedo de volver a intentarlo. Y pues algo malo me podía pasar. La travesía fue de Tijuana a San Diego y en San Diego alguien me estaba esperando para llevarme a Los Ángeles. Y de Los Ángeles todo fue rápido. En aquel tiempo subirme a un avión y llegar hasta aquí a Nueva York. Fearful when she initially crossed, the path to New York City was anything but simple. Just like Maria's voyage, there are many more people risking it all to try and achieve a better life for themselves and their families in this country. Once immigrants step on American soil, it is a matter of time to start building that future. But the start is always rough, especially when you leave everything behind in your homeland and have to start from scratch. With the determination to get ahead, Eladio Martinez came to the United States. Solo tenía un pedazo de una bolsa de basura plástica para descansar, pero aún así me sentía con ánimo porque estaba en Nueva York y salía adelante. With only a piece of a plastic bag to sleep on, Eladio's reality when he got to New York City was difficult. Immigrants and migrants' desire to build a better life and seek a brighter future outgrows the intimidating reality that life in the United States is not an easy in the slightest.
Expectations versus reality. When individuals migrate to the United States, all they visualize is the perfect world. What they do not understand is that the US is not an utopian society. This is due to the misconception and how the US is portrayed in the media. And so when they arrive, they expect to see the same visuals. Another reason for this is because family members often say to their children that the United States is the great place in the world. This is what we call expectation versus reality. For example, Aura Peña, who was interviewed by Kayla Peña, stated that the US was not everything that I expected. I arrived with the thought that it was easy to earn a lot of money. People back home would tell me that you can find money in the street in the United States. People have this mindset that coming to America is going to change their lives automatically. However, they come to the realization that it is not the case. One thing that all these interviewers have in common is that by migrating, they will be pursuing their best life. Luz Hidalgo, who is a student at Guttman Community College, migrated from Dominican Republic to New York City. She explained that before even coming to the US, I thought in this country, it was very easy to get money and everything was easy. Until I started living here, I noticed that everything was hard for an immigrant coming to a new country like this. Our work has shown that particularly in regards of finances, immigrants' expectations were shattered by the limited opportunity that awaited them in New York City. This is true for immigrants who arrived in the past few decades, as well as those who came over half a century ago. Aracelis Otero, who was 80 at the time of their interview, migrated to New York City from Puerto Rico and conveyed her mother's word. My mother used to tell me that everybody in this country was rich, and I wanted to be rich too. My mother was telling me that I was going to be rich. I'm going to have a lot of clothes, and I'm going to have a lot of food. I didn't get all that. When I came to this country, we used to live in a storage room. It was only one room and the kitchen. We only had 3 beds, and there were 6 of us living in one room and the kitchen and with the kitchen. Yes, and the bathroom was outside. I remember there were 3 beds and one for my father and my stepmother, and I used to sleep with my sister, and then my 2 brothers used to sleep in the other bed. Aracelis had a tough life in her place of origin, yet nothing seems to change, even when she came to New York City. As she mentioned, I was poor in Puerto Rico and I came here and I was still poor. Everybody in Puerto Rico had the mindset that they were going to be rich if they came here. That's what my mother said. It's not always easy to succeed in the US. There are tremendous obstacles that immigrants and migrants go through. What she expected was the complete opposite of what she experienced. No immigrants want to leave their place of origin to come live in a storage room or share a bedroom with 6 people. It's easy to create an expectation when you are told there are opportunities to create an ideal outcome, which is to better their lives. The immigrants and migrants interviewed for this project explained that they created expectations that were never met.
The language barrier. A lack of language skills had a profound impact on the social lives of newly arrived immigrants, making many feel alone in some of the most densely populated neighborhoods in the world. Javier, an immigrant from Ecuador, explained, I didn't really go out because I didn't speak the language, so nobody really talked to me and I didn't speak to anybody. Pythagoras concurred. Arriving from Benin at 16, he narrates, it wasn't easy. I lived in the projects and went to school there. It was really harsh because I didn't speak any English. His interviewer followed up, but this didn't discourage you in any way? Pythagoras retorted, no, it didn't. Immigrants have to face reality really quickly when they get here. One part of that reality being the language barrier presented in all aspects of their life. Immigrant from Mexico, Brian Reese, expressed, I barely knew how to speak English. Everyone who knew how to speak English sounded gibberish to me. Being an immigrant myself, I remember when I first got to the United States. Not knowing much English and listening to people speaking English all around me, it was like an endless riddle in my ears. For Nara, from the country of Portugal, it was particularly difficult to speak a language other than Portuguese. She narrates, for me, it was really hard because there wasn't much opportunity because I didn't speak English. The way that I communicated with people was either in Portuguese or I wrote down on a piece of paper what I wanted to ask. The drive to be here in the United States and pull through for their families is one of the things that gives immigrants the motivation to find ways to understand, learn, and speak English, however, however they can. Even though there are multiple barriers that have to be surpassed to live that American dream, the desire to give it all to learn the language is always there. When it comes to breaking that language barrier and navigating the immigration system of the United States.
After reviewing the interviews of immigrants, one major obstacle that was prevalent through most of the interviews was that immigrants were having trouble navigating the rigid immigration system. As one of those immigrants interviewed for this project, I recounted my own family's struggle with attaining citizenship. It's really difficult to get citizenship here. The first time we applied, we had to wait for months before getting a response, and it cost a lot of money. We were denied the first time, and when we applied for the second time, we're not allowed to go anywhere because if we went anywhere, it's not guaranteed that we can come back in the country. Beyond the expense, fear of family separation haunted many of the immigrants interviewed for this project. Tara Wright, an immigrant from Jamaica, conveys her concern about her immigration status. I wasn't a citizen. I was afraid of being deported and being separated from my family who's here with me. For those without legal status in the United States, the challenges can be even starker. Nadine Matthews from Trinidad and Tobago explains, not having legal status, there were not many opportunities for me. They told me just to stay under the radar, so I didn't see any opportunities. Alexandra Pedraja, who immigrated from the Dominican Republic, explains in Spanish, there are many jobs that if you do not have your papers in order, your social and your residence, they do not give it to you. That is one of the obstacles of not having papers. If what they have to do is catch an immigrant who does not have papers, I mean, if they want to deport him, they can deport him. That's it. These strict immigration laws have contributed to the struggle of immigrants.
Making it. Leticia Camejo, an immigrant from the Dominican Republic, describes what making it means to her. Le agradezco mucho a este país. Hoy mis hijos están en la universidad. Son dos adolescentes ejemplares. The fact that Leticia's children made it to college is how she measured her success as an immigrant. Our research has shown the dream of many immigrants is deferred a generation. They count not for themselves, but for their children. This empathizes the way in which coming to any country and raising your children there could really contribute to then obtaining beneficial opportunities that will help them to improve their future. A mother will always try to make her children feel capable of achieving their main objectives, but also remember to keep in mind their values and where they come from, always allowing them to recognize that their appearance does not determine their value as individuals, if not their behavior. This is because as an immigrant parent, you will always want to motivate your children to keep advancing and growing. Not only that, but to always encourage them, regardless of what people say, to do their best and to distinguish themselves from society's intolerance. For some immigrants, however, the dream of making it is wrapped up in their own accomplishments as well. Hector Riron Sirs explains, I accomplished a lot, I really tried hard. I was able to finish school, I was able to learn English, I was able to get a job, to know the city, to get me around to understand the culture, and to live accordingly with New Yorkers. Despite the obstacles discussed throughout this presentation, the people we interviewed for this project often viewed their journeys as a success, taking pride in what they had accomplished through hard work and determination. David Rodriguez, who immigrated from Ecuador, explained his own journey. Poco a poco se fueron dando las cosas en que iba conociendo en esa ciudad. Iba conociendo las oportunidades, lo que uno tiene para salir adelante y pues hasta el día de hoy me encanta esta ciudad. Rodriguez points out that when you are influenced by positive things that motivate you, you will eventually persist. This work has shown that immigrants are often cautious of all the challenges, sacrifices, and risks that they face when coming to a new country. However, those interviewed by Guttman students express a sense of accomplishment, happiness, and pride about managing to adapt to a new lifestyle in New York City. Moreover, these immigrants demonstrated that they are creative in finding solutions, finding light in the dark path, since all the problems that we go through in our lives make us more mature, strong, and courageous.
This work has shown us that many immigrants come alone, and some without a familiar face in the city of 9 million. What awaited them is as history etched in the fabric of New York, but rarely recorded as central to the American story. This project is designed, executed, and curated by us, the students at Guttman Community College, collectively working to challenge harmful narratives about the communities from where we and our classmates derived.
It is great that through this project, people outside the immigrant community could now kind of see and hear about what immigrants go through when they are in the process of getting to New York City and when they finally get here. I also feel proud to now be a spokesperson for those people who I identify with and I am a part of, which is the immigrant population in the search of the American dream. It is only fitting that a group of immigrants communicates the message born in this archive. It allows for authenticity that makes this work much more clearly delivered.
I now look at myself as a person who assisted to advocate for my fellow immigrants throughout their hardship and journey to New York City. The stories we put out there are not the everyday story that people normally read about. Therefore, advocating and spreading these simultaneously heartbreaking and uplifting stories will help the nation view the immigrants of which they are so dependent.
For me, this work is an important form of activism. Conducting and creating interviews as an immigrant myself put me in the shoe of my interviewee and allow us both to find strength in the commonality of our journey. Further, because I and many of the interview I got men are immigrant ourselves, we design better questions informed by our own experience, and could emphasize with immigrants after view in ways that cultivated a sense of unity through shared struggle. I believe that this work matter because for me, it's a way to support my immigrant brothers and sisters out there and let them know that they're not alone.
When reading and hearing some of the interviews conducted, it makes you realize that no matter the diverse languages, traditions, cultures, and backgrounds, our experiences are, as immigrants are connected. If I just were to conduct this oral history project, it will be completely different because they will never understand the hardships that these people endure. And because of this, they could never evoke these stories and memories that emerge in dialogue with someone who has a shared experience. We as students have walked in the shoes of these interviews.
Thank you all. That was awesome. Excellent.